with a new video. Happy February, folks. I hope you had a very good January and a happy New Year's. I really enjoyed having the time off to pursue my other creative interests like painting and a couple other things I did off camera, as well as revamping my sewing studio. So I am super excited to finally start using it now that it's complete. My first project of the new year will be my Valentine's Day dress, because Valentine's Day is, I think, tomorrow from when I post this. Anyway, I am going to be doing a modern pattern as opposed to a vintage pattern. I know, shocking, right? Who am I? It's a new year, new me. I'm going to be using this Simplicity S9329 by Mimi G. Now this designer, I really like her stuff and I've been admiring from afar for a while. The only thing that's ever stopped me from making any of her stuff is that it is not my style. However, when I saw this pattern, I thought it's got everything I wanted in a dress. Big poofy sleeves, nipped in waist, with a flaring out skirt. So, I think I'm going to try it. The only thing is it does have a plunging backline that I'm not sure I'm going to be too keen on, but we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. And as for materials, I actually did plan to make this last year, so all the materials I bought last year, which means it follows my let's not buy any new materials as much as possible in the year of 23 resolution. And the materials I'm going to be using for this is this dusty pink linen. So I was planning on making the entire dress out of this linen until I was perusing the remnants bin at a Joann's and found this dusty pink cotton eyelet fabric, and I thought it would be really cute on the bodice to break up the design. And because it was a remnant, I paid 50% off, which is nice. In addition to that, I'm going to try to incorporate this mauve lace that came in a bag of lace remnants that I either got for free or paid very little for. I don't remember which. I really should be marking this stuff down. Anyway, and I think that about covers it, so I am ready to get started. I had planned to make this dress last year and thus had most of the pieces already cut out. The bodice, waistband, and armbands were already cut out of the eyelet fabric. However, looking them over, I decided that they're a little too see-through for my liking, so I recut all the pieces out in linen to line with the eyelet. Also, it seems I forgot to cut the sleeve, so I do that as well. Next, I pin the eyelet to the linen and trim around the back eyelet piece to create a scallop design in the lace. I'm noting now that I cut these pieces larger than necessary in order to accommodate for the different lace patterns I wanted, and I didn't consider how that would change the construction of the garment, and thus I will end up with weird shapes that are a bit oversized. I had a lot of leftover linen, but because I'm stingy, I decided to make the back ties from scraps rather than cut into the large remnant piece. Before I get started serging, I take a cat intermission and give Miss Pepper some attention. Then I serge everything. Linen is a high fray material, and with all these seams, it would take forever to bind everything. Plus, I can serge the eyelet and linen together, finishing the edges while securing the pieces in one go. Killing two birds with one stone, if you will. Only the front and back panels get special treatment. The front bodice gets serged down the front, then flipped over to hide that finished seam, while the back piece, I serge only the raw edges. Then I fold that down and pin the scalloped edge over top of it before finishing all the other edges. Next, with all my pieces finished, I lay out the mauve lace. I like the look of it lined up against this ladder lacing of the eyelet, so I'm prepping by pinning everything down first. Unfortunately, my faithful Pfaff would not turn on. I consult with Miss Pepper to cheer me up as I figure out what to do. My Pfaff was a gift given to me by my grandmother for my 15th birthday. It's been my faithful sewing companion for 16 years and holds a lot of meaning to me. So it's worth it to me to get it fixed if it can be done, which is why I will be taking it into the repair shop as opposed to just buying a new one. Also, new ones are expensive. Feeling consoled, I make the ties by serging the edges together and pull them out with the help of Sir Paul. Then I hand sew the ends closed. While my machine is at the rejuvenation retreat, I take on the task of hand sewing each strip of lace to the eyelet, stitching between each lace ladder. Miss Pepper does her best to cheer me on while I do so. Also, in case you were wondering, this took me a long time to do. I managed to finish 2.5 movies and about 3/4 of an audiobook, but it got done. Of course, it was as I finished the last strip of lace that I remembered I am a craft hoarder. So I dug around my craft stash and I found this Singer machine tucked away. It's set up entirely different than my old machine, with a side-loading bobbin and only the plastic foot it came with, but it will do. Fortunately, I learned how to sew on a Singer, not this one in particular, but it was like riding a bicycle to restring it. Although working with it was kind of like driving someone else's car. Yeah, I can drive it, but it feels weird. I'm just happy that I can start sewing again. I begin by top stitching the back edge and front edge of the bodice pieces, then I sew all the pieces together. And then I baste all the pleats on the sleeve. However, all of this work will be ripped out because I sewed the bodice pieces on upside down and the pleats won't work with the wonky sizing of the bodice. So really this was just a warm-up. At least I got to keep the elastic tubing I made for the sleeve shoulder. I sewed the skirt and pocket sides together. Then added the pockets to the skirt interior. I marked and ironed the pleats in place as directed, and then I basted them in place. Once the pleats are done, I serged the top edge and the skirt bottom. Then I resew all the bodice pieces in the correct orientation with laughably large seams as I finally realized my pieces are too big. Although ironically my waistband is too small, so I cut an extension for both ends, cutting an eyelet and a liner, and then a back layer twice, and finishing them as I did with the other pieces.
What's your problem?
I add the bit to the waistband and it's like it's always been there.
Wow.
I pin the sleeve to the bodice, making sure it fits just right. I end up removing the bottom pleats to make it work, but once that's done, I unpin it and serge the pleats and edges down. Then I repin the sleeves and sew them to the bodice, and then I gather the bottom fabric into the cuff. I sew the cuff together, making the ruffles even, and fold the cuff over to be hand sewn later. Next, I pin the ties in place, and then I pin the overlapping front together and try it on. I think it looks pretty good, although I will go back later and take in the elastic shoulders so everything sits up a little higher. But in the meantime, I top stitch across the chest and baste the edges. I pin the waistband to the bodice and sew it down. Then I pin the skirt to the waistband and realize it's just a hair too small, so I unpick the serged edge along the back pleats and I readjust them. I do that on both sides, making sure it fits.
before I refinish the edge and sew it down to the waistband. Next comes the zipper, which I forgot to get, so I consult my box of zippers. It was pretty easy. It was actually right on top. For the zipper, I decided to follow the directions by pinning the zipper first, then hand basting it before sewing a tight stitch down the side. Circling the wasn't indicated in the instructions. That's just my flair that I added. Next, I do the same on the other side, and then it's done, but I chose to top stitch around because I wasn't impressed with this method. Next, I close the back seam and sew the waistband liner in. Here is when I decided to make the elastic shorter. The first elastic came out fine with no issues, but this little fella. Hello, darkness, my old friend. This little fella slipped from my fingers and hid down the casing for a good 45 minutes. I was much annoyed. After that, I hand sew the ties down, plus a little bit of the armpit seams, and then I tack down the waistband liner, and off screen I roll and hand tacked the hem, so it is time for the reveal.
Well, there you have it, another project down, and I gotta say, I absolutely love how this dress came out. I was a little skeptical at first, particularly with the deep V in the back, if I would like it, and it really doesn't bother me all that much. Yeah, you can see my slip, but what else are you going to do? I understand as a modern day dress that modern day women don't typically wear slips, and you're probably supposed to go braless and slipless without this, or at least a backless bra, but that is not me personally. Typically, I always wear a slip. If I don't wear a slip, I have to wear a bra. So I can't do braless or slipless, and I don't have a backless bra. So what I'm thinking is I'm going to make sometime in the future a lace back slip. Ooh, that would be fun. I think that will go really nicely. But until then, I'm probably still going to wear this dress anyway. Who cares if you see my slip? It's plain, it's fine. And I do, as far as the fit goes, I did, it's such a funny thing. I'd cut everything out to my size last year, but I grew since then, and so the waistband wasn't big enough, but I had also accommodated for all the extra applique and lace, so my bodice pieces were too big. So it was one of those rare times on which the garment was too big and too small, but I think it came out pretty nicely. I did make it a little looser than I would normally because I don't know how much bigger I'm going to get, and I want clothes that fit comfortably. It's the whole point of making my clothes, is I want my clothes to fit. And all the clothes that fit really nicely last year feel like they're bisecting me this year. So I'm really happy to have something that feels loosey-goosey. I think this is so cute. I love the color. I really like the eyelet. I'm so happy I found this eyelet fabric because it was just going to be a solid dress, but I think the eyelet and the lace really punch it up a little bit and make it more visually interesting. So, you know what? Thanks Mimi G for designing this dress. I think it is super cute, and I cannot wait to wear it for my Valentine's Day. And with that, I'm going to follow up with my new segment that I'm going to do, because I had made my New Year's resolution to not buy any new material or bring in any new material, as those are two different things. I often get gifted material, which I don't pay for, and that's great, but on the other hand, it still adds to my hoard of fabric and craft supplies. So I'm going to keep track of everything new that I bring in this year. Unfortunately, this isn't a good project for that. to start with because I did not bring in any new material. So, go me for using up everything I have. But I had bought all of this stuff and even cut out a lot of it last year because I was planning to make this as my second February video last year. And that didn't happen. I did not bring any new material in, but that won't always be the case. So I'm going to be keeping track of that as the year progresses. And then on 2024, wow, it just sounds so futuristic. But on 2024, I will then add up all the things I've spent and everything that I've added to my collection versus everything that I've reducted from my collection. So I could officially say I've completed this work in progress, so I am down one thing. Yay. Anyway, if you like this video, please hit the like button, consider subscribing. I release a new video every other Sunday. And until next time, you have a good day. Bye. What you doing? What you doing, huh? Stop. No.
However, all of this work will be ripped out because I sewed the bottom. However, all this work will be ripped out because I sewed the bottom. Why can't I say bodice?
So what I'm thinking is neighbors.